All right, today what we're going to do is I'm replacing the standard shock for a factory low shock on my 2019 Electra Glide. After taking off your saddlebags, I put a floor jack underneath, just enough that that gets rid of the preload on these springs. Very simple. You've got two bolts here. They're 3/4 inch each. I'm going to go ahead and break those loose now. Like I said, I didn't raise it enough that the back tire's off the ground, but I raised it enough that it takes the preload out of the spring. That way I can put the new one in with less hassle. Goodness. Now again, you're going to want to use a 3/4 inch socket on this. And then when you put it back together, you're going to use the same bolts, same factory bolts at this point, but we're also going to use our torque wrench, and we're going to torque it back to 35 to 37 foot-pounds. I'm going to set my torque wrench back at 35 is where I'm going to set mine. I'll bring it back in once I'm ready to put the next shock on. Here you have it, the standard and the low next to each other after it's off the bike. I'll show you here, eyelet to eyelet on this one, we're at 13 inches. Sorry about that. Eyelet to eyelet on this one, we're at 12. According to all of the specs I've read online, even though it's a 1 inch difference, it's going to help position the bike about 3/4 of an inch shorter. Well, I apologize about that. For some reason my phone glitched out and it did not record me doing the other side. What I was going to tell you is that because the shocks that I'm replacing are shorter than the shocks that I took off, you're going to need to remove both sides at the same time. You're not going to be able to do one and then the other, but you actually need to take both sides off because you're going to have to adjust the swing arm once you put these through. Now, because this is a Harley, we're going to refer back to our good old friend Blue Loctite, as we do with everything, right? We're going to go ahead and put that on. Now again, like I said, because you have to adjust it slightly for the size of the shock you're putting on, you're going to have to raise and lower the motorcycle a little bit to get it where it needs to see what's going on here. So I was able to raise the swing arm just a little bit so that this bottom bolt will line up. Again, what we're going to do is set our torque wrench with our 3/4 inch bolt. Let's go ahead and set that to 35 to 37 foot-pounds of torque on there. Crank these in nice and hand tight, and then get that torque wrench on there. Try and get that to your 35 to 40 pounds. I'll be back and I'll give you some final numbers. All right, guys, there we have it. I've got the shocks installed. These are the low shocks on my 2019 Electra Glide, right? The low shocks. Part numbers match. I apologize that the bike's so filthy. We got caught in a really crazy rainstorm today. Lowered the bike almost a full inch though, just sitting here. So when I measured this before, I was sitting at 16 at the bottom of the bar. Now it's just barely, what is that, 14 and 15/16. So I set the preload at the same that I was riding before.